Roll call.
All right. Chair, Gary Detwell.
Here.
Vice Chair Mike Schuler, excused. Alderperson Barbara Doherty.
Here.
Jim Bumrick.
Here.
Kathy Hinkes.
Here.
And Melanie Parma,
Excellent. Motion approval of the agenda.
So, motion to approve.
Second.
Jim and Barb, all those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Approval of the minutes from July 10th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Jim and Kathy, motion approved. All those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Okay, regular business, number 1. Consideration of possible action, development agreement 18-04 with Greenway Real Estate Investments, LLC, for Whitney Park Townhomes, Phase 4 at 827 Cherry Street, 829 Cherry Street, 205 North Van Buren Street, and 211 North Van Buren Street, tax parcels 10-71, 10-72, 10-72A, and 10-72B.
Only 4.
Yes. Take over, Jeff.
All right, so we are talking about Whitney Park Townhomes, Phase 4. This is intersection Van Buren and Pine Street. This was brought before you as a term sheet earlier this summer. The only one thing that has changed is right now the developer is contemplating 4 townhomes to start instead of 6. But with that, I think the developer is also here. If you'd like to suspend the rules and hear from him, would like to see this product continue throughout the block. But in terms of securing property and then a start to the project, it's committing to 4 at this time. With that, we feel that this fits into our strategy of building creating new housing products in that Whitney Park area. There's some little bit of environmental remediation, some additional things that we really feel benefit us as a city. Right now, the tax rolls for $118,000. When this is all said and done, it'll be about $846,000. So a great bump in the tax base. With that, we're proposing a TIF incentive that includes 2 things. One is a property transfer. This property, or one of the parcels that's owned by the RDA, was purchased with block grant money. So that will be purchased for $19,000. We believe the property is assessed, both parcels, at about $31,000. And then a PAYGO reimbursement. We do a TIF incentive as a PAYGO. And we take an 80% of the PAYGO, and then it'd be capped at the lesser of $150,000 for the total amount of qualified expenses. We estimate then, we put a time frame in that would last from today, 15 years, but once the project is on the line and things are starting to come back, it's about a 12-year payback for this. So with that, we think the developer has a track record of doing this type of product in the neighborhood. This is also a little bit different than was previously provided. He's here if you'd like to open the floor and hear from him. The council, our staff supports this, and we recommend that you approve the development agreement.
So Kevin, everything is scaled from what was 6 down to 4 then?
Correct. So in terms of the numbers and what was projected, yes. So we put it at, and actually I found a typo in the term sheet. We did only put in 4 because I think we were talking about the time whether or not the extra 2 would be in. So the value, the anticipated value, again, ultimately depends on final sales price, but we feel comfortable coming in at that $840,000.
I'd like to open the meeting mainly because I'd like to hear about the market analysis.
Move to
Barb,
suspend rules, no committee. Second.
Kathy, all those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Open meeting, developer.
Good afternoon. To Kevin's point, the going from 6 to 4 was primarily because everyone who wanted a unit wanted a corner unit. They wanted windows. Corner units, higher value than the middle units anyway. So the numbers are darn near identical between the 4 the size.
So a lot of interest already?
3 of the 4 are under contract.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
that's what I like to hear.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're great folks. They'll just be great. They're excited for it. I just got goosebumps. They're going to like it. It'll be a fun project.
Oh my gosh.
And you put a courtyard in there, is that what that is?
So you have
That
10
wasn't
feet,
it?
10 feet in between the 2 buildings, just like the current ones I have right now. West of the driveway will be a landscape berm. That berm is actually the residual sediment that Kevin was referring to from the fill that needs to come out. PAHs like we have all over downtown. but there'll be a berm there, there'll be a swale between the berm and the driveway.
Mhm.
So it's really a landscaped area.
Okay.
North of it is kind of in a TBD phase to see if and when this can expand north at some point in the future. Fingers crossed.
Any other questions? Motion to go back to regular business? Yes. Motion to go back to regular business?
So moved.
Second?
Barb and Jim, all those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
We're back to regular business.
I'm good.
Basically, I'm sorry, one thing, Kevin, a question, Kevin. So basically, we've been over this before, so really no changes, other than the 4 to 6.
Correct, and we just went through and just,
Yep.
again, the standard development language agreement dealt with nuts and bolts.
Yep.
and other things, but yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'd like to approve this agreement.
Motion made by Barb to approve,
Second.
and second by Kathy. Please show on the votes.
Mine didn't pop yet. Oh, here it is. Do I have to be on the agenda for it to pop?
I think you have to go back to agenda, right? You can't inboard in the packet. I always have to go back to the agenda.
There we go.
Okay, passed unanimously.
Very good, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Sounds great, and beautiful project. Yes. Number 2, consideration of possible action on development agreement 18-05 with Dreamer Real Estate Investments LLC for 901 Main at 901 Main Street, 907 Main Street, and 913 Main Street. Tax parcels 9-48, 9-47, 9-46.
Me again.
Yes.
And same developer. We also discussed at the same time another project by Mr. Bader. And this is looking at a apartment complex right on Main Street. This is right to the east of the old Greyhound station, right across the street from Whitney Park. What we're looking here is, again, mirror what was brought before in the term sheet earlier this summer. It's a 3-story apartment complex, 20 market rate units, there's some ground floor retail, underground parking. Again, we support it in terms of the continued redevelopment of the Whitney Park area, bringing some new housing products online that really add to the demand. Some environmental remediation also in the area, and again, we're going to bring residents to our neighborhood and near downtown. So with that, in terms of the numbers, right now, we own all the property, so it pays nothing in taxes. When all is said and done, we estimate it'll be about $2.3 million assessed. Then as far as a TIF incentive, in order to help cover some of the environmental remediation and structural work there, we're looking at 2 pieces. One is, again, a property transfer. We would look at transferring for the sum of $1. We estimate this would be assessed at about $93,000 for both parcels. And then a PAYGO reimbursement, we would look at 100% PAYGO for the first 4 years, and then 80% thereafter. That would be capped at $540,000. If we look at the projections, we should have that paid back, or the developer should recoup that $540 in about 12 years or by year 2032. With that, again, we feel it's a good project. Adding a rental option into this market, again, kind of the balance of what we've talked about here, ownership products, rental products, and we feel that it's a good spot in that rental market. We recommend your approval of this development agreement.
Is this different than what had come through before?
No, this is pretty much tailoring the same as exactly the term sheet. Again, the developer is here if there's been some minor tweaks to it, but this one has really stayed online in terms of what was proposed earlier this year.
Okay.
Once again, I'd like to open the meeting, I'd like to hear about the market analysis.
Move to approve.
Jim,
Second.
second by Kathy, all those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. What's happening?
Good afternoon again. This one's exciting. If the townhomes are fun and they'll be cool, this one's really exciting. So tonight's actually the investor meeting I have with my crew for the first time, so we're going over all the operating agreements and those sorts of things. To Kevin's point, same thing here, largely is what was proposed, 3-story mixed use, 20 apartment units, 12 one-bedrooms, 8 two-bedrooms, underground parking. The only thing largely different than what on this site plan is that the speed ramp, or the ramp that takes you down the garage parking, will flip to the other side. But I've had good discussions with Simonette's on the other side regarding the parking lot, the sharing of the existing one, the reshaping of that rear portion that actually will add 8 parking stalls on the site. One thing that we learned from doing not only the first phase of my townhomes 3 to 5 years ago and the new ones to the south is that apparently in this immediate area, the more north you go, the more dirty the soil becomes. So in this case here, the reason for the 100% pay-go for the first 4 years, we have 6 feet of fill to take out. So it's PAHs and smaller stuff here. So that'll be hauled up and trucked down to the special landfill. And then we'll essentially build from that point. Finished floor will be about 4 feet above grade. Otherwise, much like you see, I don't know if you have the renderings in front of you or if you've ever seen them, but just as you see is what you get from that standpoint.
You been marketing them already?
These are hard to market early. The website's up. You go to whitneypark.com/901-main.
Okay.
You can market, but folks that are looking for rental units really look about 3 to 4 months out from when they want to move. So it's something that marketing will begin in earnest right around February or March. Units will be designed to be a tick below Metro and City Deck. So 1 bedroom's about $975, 2 bedrooms around $1,500 compared to where those are. So I think still attractive for those that want new urban product. It's pet friendly. But again, if you don't want to spend where these are at, you can be just a little bit real.
Yeah, demand for these?
I'm sorry?
Is there a demand for these?
Absolutely. It's a given. Very strong the past 24 months throughout the downtown area. We're very pleased that Garrett wants to bring this product to the Main Street district. To see new construction on Main Street in this vicinity will complement other items taking place around Whitney Park. 35 units going up at Whitney School, and this product, we welcome those 50 additional units in this neighborhood.
That's a great point, because prior to doing the first set of townhomes, the neighborhood was largely, sadly, defined by absentee landlords, really low-quality rentals. Now we brought more occupied properties. Now this is, say, quality rental properties, professionally managed. I think that's a big step.
Thanks, Jim.
What type of retail businesses are you looking to attract?
Ground floor will be about 6,150 square feet. The original plan was to have a drive-through on the backside to give options for a drive-through coffee shop, that kind of thing. Because of the grade change and what we need to do with the soil, that's probably not possible. But it can be very similar still to professional office, an insurance person, things of that nature. Could it be a restaurant component? That's possible, but that's a little bit to be determined yet.
Any other questions? If not, a motion back to regular business.
So moved.
Second?
Jim and Kathy, all those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Okay, we're back to regular business. Number 2. Looking for a motion. I think it's a very exciting project.
So I'd like to move it, or,
Right.
Kathy, are you ready? Go ahead. Okay, I'd like to move that we approve consideration with possible, or the development agreement in 1805 with Green Bay Real Estate.
Okay, the motion made by Kathy, second by Barb, and we shall vote.
Yes.
Oh, so you don't have to go back.
Passed unanimously.
Congrats and good luck.
Congratulations.
Folks, thank you. You'll
Thank
start seeing
you.
shovels by October 1st. So.
All right. Thank you. All right, number 3. Consideration of possible action to issue requests for qualifications on RFQ for the professional services of a consultant to prepare a project plan for the shipyard. Kevin, I'm sure it's you.
Thank you. So continue to make progress on shipyard development. We did the development agreement in June last month, we went through and authorized funds to move forward with the first phase of the project. So part of that, the discussion we had in July, is you wanted to see what we're going to do in terms of moving forward with professional services. So we put together a request for qualifications. This is to look for consultants to put together really, kind of the design plans for the shipyard site itself, which would include, in this case, we're looking at both north and south sides of the parcel in terms of providing just building pad-ready site. So we're going to be talking about things, architectural, structural, civil engineering, environmental remediation, and also working through DNR and the permitting process, Corps of Engineers. I mean, there's a lot that goes with this in order to help expedite. We feel this is best handled through a consultant. So, a copy of the RFQ was included in the packet. Reviewed it internally with staff. Wanted to bring it before you here today and are seeking your approval to move forward with this. Give you blessing, we'll put it out in the market today. We'd like to have this turned around pretty quickly and keep this process moving forward. So with that, any questions or comments? Otherwise, we'll ask for your blessing.
Very minor one, can we correct the punctuation on its?
Yeah. What page?
Several
Several?
instances. Yes.
All right. Man, I'm a stickler for apostrophes too, I'm embarrassed. I apologize.
Too many of them this time.
Okay.
And Kevin, one question. I'm assuming when you put the original budget through, this was part of it?
Correct, and so
And we had that already listed out in there?
Correct, so for the initial $2 million of borrowing that we're doing, 1.2 is going to be allocated for real estate purchases, leaving about $800,000 left over. I think based on previous projects that we've done in the city in terms of the scope of work that's required here, and then what we talked about in the previous rendition of the shipyard, we feel $500,000 is about the right budget. There is some cushion depending on where things come back, but that's what we feel appropriate.
And where do you find these consultants? I mean, do you go up to the big city?
Yeah, so I mean, I know there's some people who have been interested in this project and watching it, I mean, both in-state and out-of-state. I think this will probably require a team of consultants. You're going to need engineers with expertise in remediation and a lot of civil work, but then you're also going to need somebody with a lot of creativity and attention to detail when it comes to talking about the container park and the urban beach and the splash pad and things that really, what we feel are going to differentiate this from any other park or amenity that we have in the city. So I think that's try to make clear in there that really have to kind of have both of these coming forward. And so once this is out, we'll follow up with those who have expressed an interest and make sure that we push it out there as wide as possible. I think, for those looking at this hopefully, we'll get some competitive bids that, like, this is going to be, a signature piece for the city of Green Bay. So for a firm to be able to attach their name to it, I think would be of great value to them.
This is a critical step, so I mean, I just hope you find the best person and organization possible to help you with this.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it will come back to this body in terms of making a decision for moving forward. Tentatively, we have a timetable. We'd like to hopefully do this, put it out there for a month to 6 weeks, and then come back maybe late September for a special meeting to move forward.
Good.
I think part of what we've also discussed is timetable of how long it's going to take to get this design work done, and trying to line it up with construction schedule so that we can take this and then move into construction in a pretty seamless process.
Yeah, I don't want the project to delay any more than anybody else, but I looked at that timeline and boy, that looks pretty tight to respond, given the economy.
So we discussed that, and I discussed that with our Public Works Director in terms of what's on the field right now. So in terms of the RFQ, he felt good about having it out there for a month to 6 weeks, but what may get legged up is the actual design, like doing the actual work for it.
Yeah.
We'd love to see it done by the end of the year, but it may take 6-9 months to do.
This is no secret, right, that we're looking at this. We'll cast the net pretty wide. Stoss is from Boston. Look, we've had consultants in here from Minneapolis, Chicago. I mean, people know.
Plus, where
we're on the roll.
success stories
Right.
have been.
Right.
So, I'm not, I agree, the economy's pretty good right now. They're gonna pick a winner, but I
think the
pretty attracted to
differentiation
this.
makes sense. Actually doing the design work is going to take
Right.
more time
Yeah.
when you get deeper into staff of who you select.
Yes.
Yes, please.
So I think my feeling is that once we commit to this, that would help get other businesses interested in the surrounding area. Do you feel the same way?
Yes, I mean, since the development agreement has passed, I mean, our office has seen an uptick in interest of, okay, the city's really doing this, like, I may be more interested in the property down there, I may be interested in, something as it happens, both not only from helping out or being part of this project, but just, look, I want to move my business down there, I want to acquire some property down in that area. And I think this step really helps with that and shows that we're serious about making progress in that area.
Thank you for affirming what I had hoped.
It's exciting. It's part of the city that desperately needs the most help in my mind. So it's exciting to be able to go forward with this.
Gary, a couple
Yes.
questions.
Oh, please.
Kevin,
Right.
and I realize this may be premature to bring this up, but I'd still like to just address it, and that is making sure that there's an appropriate dialogue with key stakeholders, including on Broadway, about physical improvements and design. Because honestly, right now, the Broadway district is a rummage sale of design. I mean, nothing is contiguous, nothing is consistent, and we're talking about, some substantive improvements here along Pearl and Bridge, and it sure would seem nice to have some continuity with the rest of the district. And so, whether it's just an assumption of responsibility by staff, I'm okay with that, or if it needs to be something that's documented in this document, either way, I just at least want to make that point known that I think there should be a discussion of, when you look at this as a district, how do you market as a district? And right now, it's kind of lacking that from a design perspective, and especially with what's going on at the rail yard, they're kind of doing their own things. I just hate for all of a sudden you've got a Broadway district that looks like it's 10 different spaces. And so I think now's the time to maybe start having that discussion about whatever design is chosen here, maybe that's what carries through to the rest of the district.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, and I think, it's important to us, and it's been brought up, I think, earlier in the process, and our team's been aware of just public involvement piece in this. And, so one of the things in terms of, I think, put in the qualifications, sub F, talking about communicating with city staff, interested stakeholders and public, and just looking for also like creative ways to engage, like going to Broadway, going to the farmer's market, going to events, and, really trying to solicit that feedback in meaningful ways instead of just, traditional public meeting. But I think also, talking with on Broadway, in terms of how this, investment really does shape the rest of the district and how it might tie back up further north. I think those groups are assumed to be involved in here. And I think part of it will be, when this board and council, makes a selection that can be identified, and the actual proposal and scope of work to make sure that element is satisfied.
Brian, is there something that you'd like to be added to the RFQ?
not necessarily, again, I'm going to make it known every step of the way, Gary.
Okay, that's great.
That I think,
That's great.
we're making a pretty big investment down here, and I don't want to squander the opportunity
Excellent.
for what we do here to have a positive impact on the balance of the district.
Excellent. Good. All right, looking for a motion in regard to the RFQ.
I'll move to approve.
Barb,
Second.
and second by Kathy. And initial votes. Is that ready?
Kathy's been registering.
There we go. All right.
Passed unanimously.
We're a pretty congenial group today. Good. Very possible, very positive. Number 4, consideration of possible action to purchase 1235 Main Street and 427 Street, I think it's George Street.
St. George.
Oh, that's right, it is St. George, got it. St. George Street, tax parcel is 8-267 and 8-265 for $175,000. Who's got this guy?
Still me.
Still you, okay.
So this is a parcel located, and I did put the map up, it's in the packet, right off Main Street, northwest corner of Main Street and St. George Street. It's just between the East River and the Cock and Bull Pub. A representative for the property owner approached the city and and looked at potential for this building, going through the city. I think from a city perspective, look, anytime, it's been no secret, redevelopment on Main Street, redevelopment on the Waterfront, that we need to look at opportunities for, controlling and then making sure we get the best development possible in these areas. So we as staff have done some due diligence and working through our departments about some potential opportunities and some potential alternatives for this particular parcel. I would recommend just kind of talking about negotiations, going into closed session and discuss kind of where we're at and how we're feeling about that. With that, we do have a representative for the property owner here. If you want to ask any specific questions, you can open the floor for that. And if you want to do that before or after our discussion, I think we'll go from there.
I guess before we go into closed session, just one generalized question. What do you see the maximum potential of that property?
So, I mean, it's waterfront property. Well, it is and it isn't. So where the building is, there's actually a little parcel owned by the adjacent property owner. I mean, there's a hodgepodge of ownership in this area between what is owned as part of this transaction and what adjacent property owners own. I think through some dialogue, we might be able to do some horse trading and in terms of, looking at redevelopment, the parks, we're putting in the kayak launch up in that area, the East River Trails going through that area, again, as I said, Main Street redevelopment in terms of, ultimately controlling the size and scale of redevelopment in that area and working to get projects that really activate the space. And I think all of those are things that we've looked at, and I think through those discussions have a few ideas about what we might be able to make happen there. And that's what we'd kind of like to discuss, a path forward in terms of actually making a purchase with that. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to.
Yes.
We're a little bullish on waterfront development, right? And that's the administration that we work on, and we want to be known for that. And when you kayak from downtown and go over there, you can envision much cooler space than this pretty broken up, dilapidated parking lot, and the buildings are right. But and when we were approached that we could control this for the price is $175,000. We talked about it at staff and just really thought that we wanted to come in here and go through the process. I will tell you that we maybe thought we were getting a little bit, it's a little tricky out there. I think Kevin mentioned that, but the actual waterfront is really owned by the guy next door. Now, he had made some gestures that he'd be willing to swap that for some parking, but our meetings haven't gone as smoothly as maybe I would have liked. But we can talk about that in closed session as to what you feel about that. But,
sure.
Look, we're putting a lot of money into that trail. And
yes.
We like kayaks, we like biking, and we love the Main Street district, and you've got to connect that all. And everybody talks about connecting it through streetscape, and I'll buy that, but you want to connect it through the water too. So when this opportunity came up, I think it was 60 days ago, we worked on it, and we can't do anything without your approval, and eventually the city council. So I guess in terms of the negotiation or how you want to handle that, closed session is better, but, we've been working with their agent, but, Ken Dax is here, and he's been kind of in communication. The reason the property came up is the owner fell ill, and then Ken reached out to us, and I said, we'd like to talk to you. So that's why it's here.
I got a number of questions, but most of them are in regard to closed session. Do we have any questions in regard to open session before we go into closed session? Jim? Is everybody very familiar with the property where it's at?
Put the map in the packet.
Yep, I see.
Yep. So you can see in there, it's 8-267 is the building, and then 8-265 is the big parking lot in back. Those are the two parcels that we're talking about.
I guess a generalized comment. In general, very few times do we have an opportunity to buy property on the river. I mean, it doesn't come up very often. I'm just saying it's generalized comment.
What's 8268?
8268, that parcel is owned by the owner who owns 8266 and 8264. So the 8267 is like a little wedge in between
Right.
Right.
everything else that the other property owner owns.
But we're talking about 8267 and 8265.
Correct.
Do you need a motion to go into closed
Yes,
session?
we do.
Okay.
In the language.
And would you like me to read the language
Yes.
then?
Go ahead, Barbie.
We go into closed session. The authority may convene in closed session pursuant to sections 19.85 LE Wisconsin statutes for purposes of deliberating or negotiating the sale of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business as necessary for competitive or bargaining reasons. The authority may thereafter convene an open session pursuant to section 19.852 Wisconsin statutes to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda.
Roll call.
All right. Gary Delvaux?
Do we have to have a motion and a second?
Yeah.
Okay, motion and a second to go into closed session.
Are you not
Motion.
Okay, somebody has to second it.
Jim seconded,
Okay.
motion and a second to go into closed session.
All right. Gary Delvaux?
Yes.
Alderperson Barb Dorf?
Yes.
Kathy Inkfuss?
Yes?
Jim Blumreich?
Yes.
Okay.
So we are in closed session.
Close.
Okay. Yes, Rick?
Yes,
Just a-
we should have.
So moved.
Oh. Bill, could you open the door, please? Thanks.
Barb, motion,
I want a motion, I want a motion to go back now.
Second.
a second, Barb and Jim, motion to go back to open session, we'll take roll.
All right. Gary Delvaux?
Yes.
Alderperson Barb Dorf? Kathy Inkfuss?
Yes.
Jim Blumreich?
Yes.
All right, we're back to open session. In closed session, we came up with a direction for staff and how to proceed, and we're asking Kevin to reword that motion, and we'll go from there. Kevin?
Yes, so I think the appropriate action would be to direct staff to amend its offer to purchase based on directions given in closed session.
I'll make that motion.
All second.
Okay, the motion by Barb, and second by Jim, so we shall vote on number 4. So,
Passed unanimously.
passed unanimously. So in a nutshell, we're asking staff to continue to negotiate for something that we can all live with, and they come back to us with that results.
Correct.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Number 5. Oh, wait, Jim, did you want to make a comment?
I do, I want to jump ahead to the director's report, even though it's Kevin, I got a comment. So you're, after this meeting, you're taking a tour of 6th floor? Is that what's on the agenda, is that the plan?
That'd be great.
Yes. It's, what money you sticking to this?
That's a show.
About total, probably about 700,000 total with all the furniture.
It's just great space, and I'm very pleased, very proud of it. And this room, we've done some things to, little technology options, new table, new chairs, but this is a room that Harry Meyer spent a tremendous amount of time in, and we would like to honor him and his family by renaming this room the Harry Meyer Room. And we would like a plaque there or there, but with his picture and just talking about the dedication. We'd like to do that on the 11th of your next meeting.
Okay.
And if you guys could just look at your agenda and see if we could do that at noon with the lunch, invite his family, and the plaque that we put in here, we're going to make 2 of them, give one to his family. But we think the Redevelopment Authority, I mean, he was strong in a lot of things, and
Yes.
people talk, Pocket Park, Hotel Northland, we don't know Hotel Northland, so, and then, look, they love Green Bay, but they're just kind of feeling their way right now. And this just feels right,
Wow.
and this is something that
Absolutely.
we've got the authority to do, and
Absolutely.
we're
Extremely
talking
deserving.
about that at staff, it totally is, we'll call his family tonight, tomorrow, let them know, but that's something that we as a staff really want to do, and, y'all, you never do enough for people like that, but I think this is a real honor to him, this building's gonna be here a long time. City Hall's not moving, so this would be a good thing for
Great idea.
the volunteers here, so.
We could even put a curling thing in here.
Yeah.
It's just in the corner.
There you go.
And this,
So, bottom line, everybody, we're going to do a little tour of the 6th floor afterwards.
I can't.
Wow, very deserving. Great, okay,
I
great
will.
idea. Very good, thank you. All right, number 5, consideration of possible action on pre-approved of contract CB 18-01 Beaver Dam Park ball field lighting to low qualified bidder with CDBG funding not to exceed $150,000.
This is me. This is a 2017 funding for Community Development Block Grant. They're putting in some park lighting at Beaver Dam, and they're doing a few other things that are, it's going to cost more money than the $150,000 worth of block grant funds. But in order for us to get this project moving and the money spent by our timeliness deadline for HUD, we are asking for a pre-approval with not to exceed our CDBG funding of $150,000.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion.
I had a question.
Oh, yeah, please,
Sure.
oh, please, please, Kathy, sorry.
That's okay.
Now's the
One,
time for questions.
one question. Up to 150,000, it says low qualified bidder. Do we look at the bidders for those people that have their business in Green Bay, and do they have a leeway of, let's say, 1% to 2% that?
I don't know. DPW bids it out, and I don't know what their qualifications. I think it's just the low qualified bidder, as long as they
I don't think you
have
can reference.
all of their information, but I don't know that they get a preference if they're Green Bay.
Okay.
I believe it's who's ever low.
Yeah, who's ever though.
Well, Vanessa would be our expert on
Yeah.
that, but I'm guessing there's no local.
Well, I just think if people that live in Green Bay, live in Brown County, doing business in Green Bay and Brown County, that money all comes back, and if the lighting facilities in Milwaukee, and we have somebody that's, let's say, within $500, are we going with Milwaukee, or are we going, do we think about that?
Or maybe, is there even an option? That is a bigger.
We have to have one in place. If we don't have one in place right now, it's not an option.
Right.
So it's not an option right now.
So we'd have to have like an ordinance in place, or how they, what?
I will have to look into how we establish getting that option into place. But if we don't have one currently, it's
It's too
not.
late for this. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Answer that, thank you.
That's something we should.
Okay, so the motion and a second, number 5.
Motion to approve the funding up to $150,000. Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't
we're
think we
just
had to go back.
No, we don't have to go back, because
Okay.
discussion right after.
I don't want to create a clog or anything.
No, and usually the discussion happens after the motion and second.
Yes,
it does
yes.
anyway, yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
I wasn't trying to get you.
No, you're
No, that's all
absolutely-
right. I'll raise my hand if I have
All
to.
right.
No, that was very good.
Kathy's, you're registered yet?
Somebody's hands must have used this before me.
Put it down.
There we go.
Okay, passed unanimously.
Very good, thank you. Number 6, consideration of possible action to amend the 2017 annual action plan for a transfer of $114,397.03 for the economic development facade and demolition program for the economic development revolving loan program. I think we have been using the facade and demolition program.
Right, it's been hard to get the money out the door, and with our timeliness, our requirement from HUD, having to get spent down by November 31st, pardon me? 30th, sorry, November 30th. Yeah, we have to get this money spent, and the economic development revolving loan program has been very successful, and she's got 3 applications in the hopper right now that the money can be spent by that deadline date. So it's still all economic development
Right.
opportunities. So we would like to just amend and move the money from the facade demo program to the revolving loan to get that money out the door and in the community. When we receive our 2018 funding, we'll have $50,000 that will replenish the facade and demo program. So we'll be getting some money back in, probably in the next month or 2, when we get our 2018 funding from HUD.
How
It's almost the
do
end.
people,
Yeah.
how do people find out that they're eligible?
Well, our economic development team has been marketing it. We have pamphlets, Matt Buchanan.
So
had a
specifically to those
program.
areas that are
We're doing
eligible?
some door-to-doors, I think.
Yeah, we regularly meet with the bids and share information about the programs at those bid meetings. We have information on our website. We're talking about doing a video to put online as well. But yeah, we try to share that information out in the community as much as possible.
And that's homeowner, can homeowners use this one, or is this just the business?
This is just for commercial
Okay.
businesses,
All
for-profit
right.
businesses.
What was the match on that, man?
25%.
Speaking of bids, we've not had any sort of update on what's going on in all the bid districts around.
We don't do anything.
No, actually,
I'm
we
just
talked
curious
about that
about
2
having an
meetings ago.
update at the RDA at some point in time.
Sure. I think by statute, they're required to report out to Plan Commission. But next time they do, because Plan Commission is actually the one that approves their operating plans.
Okay.
But next time they're on the docket, we can make sure to do it at the corresponding RDA.
Good, thank you.
It's October?
October.
Yep.
October.
Okay.
Our report's going in October.
Okay.
Just a quick comment in regard to revolving loan committee. By the way, too much stuff here. Matt is the appointed chair now. And anyway, very successful group. We've had a lot of applications where we made a difference between something happening and not happening. It's gap financing. And so I know that the money will be used wisely. So I would very much appreciate a motion to move those dollars.
Gary, I have a couple of questions first.
Yes, please.
Is it possible for these dollars to have dual designations? And what I mean by that is, could they be designated to the revolving loan fund and the grant program, first come, first serve?
Yeah, we would just have to restructure our annual action plan because we have it set up in the accounting system as 2 separate programs. But it would just, would have to be just restructured.
But part of the reason I'm asking is I can think of at least 2 proposals that, while I don't have them today, they would come in before the deadline on this, but if that money's gone, we'd lose that opportunity. And so that's why I'm asking if there can be a dual purpose, or would it be possible perhaps to withhold some of this without understanding what revolving loan fund needs, to withhold some of this and say contingent upon, maybe giving like a 30-day period, right? I'm making numbers up, but we'll withhold $20,000 for 30 days. If no applications come in within that 30-day period, then the balance gets transferred over.
Well, can I just say, I thought we're getting more. I thought we're getting 50,000 more.
For next year.
No, but it'll come in this
No,
year.
It's coming in this year.
In
It'll come
the
in.
I was
next
behind.
month or in the
I
next
was
month.
behind.
So that 50,000 is coming into this grant, facade grant program?
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
I'm sorry, I missed that piece.
Yes. That should be in the next month or 2.
The next month.
The application's in HUD, so we're just
Yeah.
waiting for our grant signatures to come back, and then once we sign those, it'll be put into our account.
Can that application be submitted before that money comes in? And could it be received
Yes.
if a project is ready?
Mhm.
So you would just mortgage the 50,000 until HUD brings in? Okay.
Mhm.
I think you're covered, Brett.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're
that 50 is enough to cover what I've got
Good.
in the hopper, so I'm good then.
All right.
I'd still recommend that maybe we do consider
Dual purpose?
dual purpose. I think that flexibility for next year would be fantastic.
Because don't we have a 30-day comment period for this move?
We have a 30-day comment period for this move, yes. So we would have to change
The language.
the language of how we would move this money
And it could say
and the purpose.
either or, and that would be acceptable.
I've never had it done that way.
And it doesn't, Wendy's got some loans in the hopper that would spend all of that money.
That's what
Is
she
that
said,
true?
yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's a bird in the hand to a bush.
But, I mean,
Right.
just because she might have some people in the hopper doesn't guarantee that those requests would be approved.
Right.
True.
See, what
Much like the
I'm,
facade loan.
Exactly. And that's why I kind of am preferring the dual purpose option if it,
We could do that one, maybe not with this, but moving forward, because there's going to be the other 50,000. I mean, in the future, or did you guys want it done now? That we should.
I'm okay with looking at it for the future, as long as I know that I've got that 50,000 coming in that could entertain some of these things I've been working on.
Yeah, like I said, we should decide that today.
But are those different programs than yours, Matt? Are you thinking of the same facade loans?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
my grant program being combined dual purpose with the RLF.
No, but my question is, are you and Alder
Projects I'm
Johnson
thinking
on the
of.
same, looking at the same projects for facade? Or are you thinking of separate facade projects, separate from what Alder Johnson has in the hopper?
I've got multiple in the hopper from multiple districts, but they are not ready right now.
Is that 50 enough to cover it?
I don't know for sure.
You can
Haven't seen the
always
proposals yet.
transfer money back.
We could transfer the money back.
We can, yeah, we can transfer the money. The problem is if we make it a dual first in, first out,
Right.
it's serving two different national objectives. The economic development revolving loan program is creating jobs. The facade and demo program is eliminating blight. So you're doing two, they're actually two different programs. So I don't know how we could mesh those together with different national objectives at the end. That's why we kind of have them separated out. Absolutely, the facade demo program could create jobs, but that is a different type of burden that might make it even harder to get the money out the door if we do that.
And that's actually not on the agenda, right? I mean, this is not on the agenda. Do we, the thing about making
The
it a dual
dual.
purpose, don't we have to kind of have that on the agenda?
Question is
Okay.
that you could-
Yeah,
Well, not unless it was an amendment to the way that you're actually going to transfer these funds.
Okay.
If that's a contingency.
yeah.
But again, I'm saying if there's 50,000 coming in, I'm good. And if you want to talk about dual purpose for next year,
So we can just make sure it's okay, right? So we can legally make sure dual purpose is okay? To have
I
that
think with
research.
50,000 coming in, that we should make the motion to move these dollars to
We haven't had a facade demo loan go through in quite a while. This money, this 114,000 is 2008 and 2013 money that hasn't been moving, and it's because we haven't had staff really moving it, and Matt coming aboard, he has been working diligently trying to get that out. So I think if we need additional, more than 50,000, we could make a transfer from the revolving loan, because the revolving loan is going to be receiving some money in.
Okay. Live with that, right?
Because
We
now
can
when they
definitely
drain the
do-
fund, that's when the applications will start to
Right.
come in.
Right, right.
Generally what happens.
And our goal is to,
Right.
our goal is to meet timeliness.
Absolutely.
Right,
Right.
So it's a 30-day every time you do that.
Absolutely.
Did we move this already? or not?
Yeah, no, we have not.
Okay, I'd like to.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Barb, second by Jim, and we shall vote. Let's see what we
Passed unanimously.
Very good, thank you. Thanks for your comments, Brian. Number 7, consideration of possible action on extension of the development agreement for the property located at 1130 Stewart Street, tax parcel 14-997.
All right.
Ken,
Hi.
good to see you.
All right, so this 1130 Stewart Street was a property that the RDA purchased in 2016 from Brown County as a tax foreclosure. In April, we awarded a development agreement with Mitch's Hometown LLC. So far, he's done some selective demo and some tree removal on the property, but he lost his initial funding source as well as one of his general contractors. So he's been working to find a new contractor that can fit into this timeline. So he's looking to get a 45-day extension as of August 20th is when the original development agreement expires. And so talking with him, I put the deadline of that August 20th to verify that he has a contractor in writing, as well as providing proof of funds to make sure that he can complete this project within the the scope of his original work that he presented to us.
So it's not to complete the work, but they have all his ducks lined up.
Well, August 20th is what I gave him as a deadline to get the ducks in a row. And then what we're approving today would be a 45-day extension contingent on him having those PIFA funds and a contractor lined up.
And he's had them for how long?
He's had it since April 10th. Well, when we awarded it, I think we executed end of April is when we transferred it to him. April 20th is when we transferred him the property.
But I'm fine with that. I'll make a motion to grant that extension.
I'll second.
The way it was termed.
Motion made by Barb, and a second by Kathy.
There we go, passed unanimously.
Very good. Thanks, Ken. You got number 8 as well?
I do.
Okay, number 8. Consideration of possible action on a hold harmless agreement with On Broadway for the property located at 321 North Broadway, tax parcels 5-586 and 5-587.
All right. And I forgot to put a map in the packet, so I printed this off for
thank
you
you.
here.
Thank
Show
you.
you where we're looking. If anyone else needs them, I have them. All right, so staff met with Broadway staff to look at doing a pocket park on 321 North Broadway. This site, we had previously RFP'd. If you remember in the past, we had awarded this to the barracks. It was the barracks project. City staff does plan on RFPing this one again in this fall. Actually, once we award the Adams Street parking lot, we're going to put an RFP out for this one. We talked with On Broadway staff at doing a pocket park here just to kind of activate the site temporarily, just to add another public space in the Broadway district. It'll be all things on the site that are removable, nothing will be permanent there. We had Aaron Rosnick from our staff here do a little rendering here, as well as in your packet you can see the kind of an idea for the site, as well as other pictures there of ideas of what they want to do. WPS has also donated a solar-powered phone charging station / picnic table to On Broadway, so they're looking for a site for that. So we incorporated that into this plan as well. Sam from On Broadway has been kind of the lead on this project. She's here if you have any questions for her.
What street is this street?
It's Kelly.
Okay.
How much money are we talking about putting for this?
We would just continue to do the maintenance on this.
Oh.
We wouldn't put any money other than maybe some staff time to help,
Okay.
find some, coordinate some donations of some activities for the site.
And the bottom line, you can send out another RFP to develop it.
Correct, yep.
This is a temporary thing.
It's temporary. Also talking with the law department, instead of doing a hold harmless agreement, we would do a lease agreement. So we would probably do, just a $1 lease, and set that up as, $1 per year, and then maybe month to month. So once we do get that development, they're on the same page as us. They want to see the site redeveloped. They don't want it to be a permanent park, but for the time being, why not activate the space?
Right.
So the recommendation would be enter into lease with On Broadway?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So, yeah, that actually, I talked to law after this already got printed, so.
I move to approve.
Jim, made a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Barb. So we need to use that property. Temporary use.
Well, there isn't any
Good luck,
green
Sam.
space on it.
Well, I think it opens up opportunities for other sites once we prove that
Yep.
we can do a pocket park here, maybe
Yes.
other redevelopment sites. We can do the same thing temporarily, so.
Passed unanimously.
Good. Number 9, consideration of possible action request by Hometown Bank to release its interest in historic tax credits further continuing guaranteeing limited rail yard north at 420 North Broadway and 520 North Broadway, tax parcels 5-1756 and 5-1757.
Okay.
That's you?
With support.
With support?
So our development agreement with Rail Yard, triparty between city, RDA, and DBL Holdings. There was also a part of that agreement, there was a guarantee between the city and Hometown Bank, who was providing financing for the project. We discussed it here. Ultimately, the guarantee is just an agreement between the city and Hometown and DDL. With that, they are looking, in the letter that was included in your packet, made a request to the city for consent to be able to transfer the historic tax credits or as collateral, to transfer that to Associated Bank. In short, our initial opinion was that that actually wasn't contemplated as part of the security agreement as collateral, so they didn't really need our consent. With that, the bank felt that they would still like to get approval or consent, so there's nothing to argue about in the future in terms of direction. Given that, again, we didn't really contemplate it, we would recommend that the consent be given, or recommend that council take action to provide consent to the reallocation of the HTCs from Hometown to Associated. So this would be just recommending, this would be on the common council agenda next Tuesday. This would just be, in order to get through a committee, a recommendation to council to take that action. If there's anything to add?
So just to make it clear how this request is working, so we never had any interest in the tax credits from the city's perspective whatsoever. Instead, what they were doing is securing the loan, saying that what they would do is go after the collateral that was identified in their security agreement first before they came after the guarantee, or that those were things that they could use to essentially pay off the debt. And again, when we reviewed it, it did not indicate there was anything included in there with the historic tax credits. The closest thing that came close to it was business assets of the company. And so felt it was a little too attenuated to really make that extrapolation saying that they were going to use those historic tax credits, especially since they've been contemplated the whole time as being used by something else. And the bank actually conveyed to us that they were not planning on using those historic tax credits as collateral anyways. And so with that, we don't see any issue with it. And so we're recommending.
So they weren't using them as collateral?
Correct.
And there's no risk then of the transfer or?
Correct.
So is our action to recommend approval to the city council?
Yes.
Recommendation to council.
Yes.
Because the way it's written, it makes it sound like we have the authority on it.
I apologize if it was written that way, but it should be recommending the council take action.
Okay, with that, I'll recommend it as amended, or move to approve it as amended.
And I'll second that.
Motion by Jim, second by Kathy. Please vote. All right.
Passed
All right,
unanimously.
very good, thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Informational, I looked at the finance report, Check Register, I have no problem with that. Director's report and the project updates.
All right, so project update, Hotel Northland. So 2 parts. One, construction continues to progress along. Anticipate that the shell should be completed end of this month and still on track for opening this fall. I know Krista has been working with the general manager in terms of the hiring requirements and part of the HUD loan things. And so they're trying to assemble their team over there and then comply with the guidelines there. One of the pieces that goes to Finance Committee tonight, if you've seen and I can forward it to RDA, is an audit of the project. This was a request made by the last council, a communication that was made with that, the receiver doing their job in terms of handling the assets of Hotel Northland LLC, had a third-party auditor come in and basically look at the project top to bottom, presented the results of that audit to all the financial partners involved. For the city, two forms. We had the 2.5 million of tax increment financing that went in, and then our HUD loan. Of the 4.7 million, we had 3.6 million into the project. And so the auditor looked at that 3.6 million in terms of, again, there's certain requirements that that money had to be spent on certain items that complied with HUD guidelines. There was a list: furniture, fixtures, capital assets, working capital, some consulting. With that, the auditor did find discrepancies between receipts that were given to the city and the money that was actually, on which money was actually spent.
You said did not.
Did.
Did.
Did,
find.
yes. And so two things happened. One, our HUD money went into an account with all the other funds. So you basically, when you were making the developer, and this is Hotel Northland LLC, this is the previous developer, not the current developer. When that developer was making payments, it wasn't like this was a HUD dollar and this was an Octagon dollar and this was a whatever dollar. It was all commingled into one account. So in terms of tracking those expenses, I mean, they weren't kept in separate lanes. With that, and looking at the specific things that were submitted back to the city in terms of, there was a list of documentation that that developer had to say, look, we spent money on these certain things and submitted receipts for that. The audit found that that didn't match up with what was actually done. And so there was some discrepancy, the biggest one being with some kitchen equipment. All in, there was about $800,000 of discrepancies. In terms of what was actually paid for, in terms of some bills weren't paid in full, the kitchen equipment wasn't actually fully purchased. So with that, the auditor found that, again, that documentation that was submitted to the city, in some instances, was not true. With that, the auditor did find and confirm that all of the money did go into the project.
Good.
That no money went out to separate contractors or individuals, that it all went into the project.
Good.
And so what we did upon receipt of this is looking at, okay, well, with all those funds and working with the finance director, is, okay, from all those receipts and all the money that went into the project, what were the things that were spent on HUD eligible expenses?
Yes.
So we know that, okay, it wasn't spent on these things, but obviously, I mean, there's tens of millions of dollars going into the project. What are the other items that were spent for HUD eligible expenses? Went through, identified those, and are now working just with HUD and make sure that those all match up. Once we get confirmation from HUD, and I think we're talking to them Friday, just about the process also of changing, making amendments to the development agreement to get the new developer on board. That we're just making sure that we match up all those receipts so that we can be in compliance with HUD before we release the rest of our funds. There's still about $500,000 left for us to put into the project, and we just want to make sure everything previous developer matches up before we go forward with the forward developer. So, long story short, look, it's disappointing, upsetting to see that basically we were lied to in a situation that money wasn't spent on items that we thought it was spent on, and really had no reason to believe it wasn't spent on, given the receipts and everything else that we had in terms of documentation.
That's key.
With that, though, I think it was assuring for some confirmation that all the money did stay in the project, go
Yes.
into the project, and
Yes.
wasn't spent on other things.
Any lessons learned or anything you did different? Not really, I mean, based on what you're given, you.
We're gonna write a book about this project from
Well,
start to finish of what not to do in some instances. I think, from an accounting perspective, could we look at some things of, keeping up separate money for, okay, then you have to take it out of a separate HUD account and moving forward.
Sure.
We could look at that. We could look at slowing down the process and, going through and, all right, we actually want to go over and see every nut and bolt and things like that. I think in terms of construction schedules and timeliness and things like that. And again, reviewing the documentation, you wouldn't have a reason not to believe that money wasn't being spent on those things.
Absolutely.
And also, I think there's several times we had conversations with the other partners about, if you feel anything that there's, doesn't smell right about this. And at the time, none of the other financial partners said, no, the money's going into these things, and obviously, the building's going out to getting constructed.
The real good news is that all the dollars did go into the project.
That's correct.
That's number one.
That's correct.
The two buckets weren't kept separate, or whatever. And so now you're gonna try and straighten that out with HUD.
We're just, yeah, and we looked at, look, I mean, of all the other expenses that were done.
Right.
Okay, there's certain others, it wasn't kitchen equipment, but were the others that are HUD eligible, just so we can make sure that moving forward, look, this is what the HUD money, these specific items.
Kevin, maybe this is a more appropriate question for finance, but I'm going to ask it now anyway. As the guarantor of that loan, is the city at risk if there's not enough HUD-eligible expenses to match up with the money we've already given out? Meaning, could the city potentially be demanded to repay that money, that
Even though
difference?
it went to the project.
Even though it went into the project, but if it's not HUD-eligible,
Yeah.
could HUD say, you got to pay us back that money?
So, yeah, so we have to pay back the money regardless. And really what our collateral is how many years? 5, 4, 5 years?
5 years.
Of our block grant funding. And so what they could look at, putting at risk is saying in the future, okay, well, these things weren't, necessarily spent on HUD-eligible activities. And I think that's what we're trying to work out with right now, and I think we've been upfront with HUD, and HUD has understood like all the fits and starts of this project, and for them being one of the few Section 108 loans that they do, they've kept an eye on where things go. I don't think they're to the point where things are adversarial, because they want to see two things. I mean, they want to see this project get done, and they want to see us continue to receive our block grant funding. So I don't think we're at the point where we have reason to be concerned about that happening yet.
So,
Did I answer your question or not?
You answered it, but
Okay.
I don't know that it makes me feel good. I mean, they're not saying that they're going to do it, but they could.
So what we have been conveyed to this whole time that we've been talking to them is that HUD gives us the money, and it's our responsibility to pay them back. And once it comes past to the city, it's our obligation to make sure that everything follows through. So really, HUD's just worried about getting paid back what they are owed, and then they put all the responsibility on ensuring that the requirements are met on the city. So with Kevin, I don't see a lot of potential for default, because we are making those loan terms back, and we are imposing those obligations, like you have to meet the hiring restrictions and all that stuff, and we have been working with them. And so I think HUD, even if we were potentially in default, which I don't think we are, I think that HUD is, like you said, he's willing to work with us. They're willing to work with us.
I think to that point, like most of our other programs, HUD really kind of defers to the municipality or the entity receiving the money. It's up to us to decide, did those expenses meet those eligible, are they eligible expenses? They basically rely on the city to say yes or no, those are eligible and those are not eligible. And where we're trying to do is just trying to be proactive, like in the case where somebody would look at this down in the future, or HUD would want to do an audit on this, that there's no question, like, yeah, these would, qualify in HUD's perspective as qualified expenditures. I think what Vanessa was saying, they leave it up to us to decide, but I just want to make sure that those in DC would also agree with us that there's no ambiguity, like, yeah, no, this is, a true meeting that. And I think, talking with Krista, I mean, there's some times too where we talk about we're just totally separate projects, like, would this qualify, in terms of, we run it up the chain and just say, hey, do you think this meets one of the national objectives or those things? So, with that, I guess I don't have concern that they would say, nope, it wasn't used as we thought it was going to be used.
The other component of it is when we started talking about all this stuff, we've actually been in talks with HUD for months, and we told them we'd let them know what the terms of the results of the audit were, all that stuff. And while they were interested in the audit, they were more interested in payment plan. And so this whole time, and we've been in the discussions with them, we've notified them of the fact that there are inconsistencies. And still, they're like, okay, well, let's focus on, send us those, let's go ahead and talk about those and get those cleaned up, make sure everything's fine. More importantly, we need to know the terms that the new developer is going to be assuming, because we just need to get those documents cleaned up. So they're moving forward completely with getting things moving forward.
So the question I have is, you have a single audit that your auditors perform each year when they come in to look at the city's books. And the single audit handles the umbrella of all grants, state and federal programs that the city administers. I'm guessing that this HUD loan fell underneath that single audit guideline. And so did your auditors not look in detail as to whether the proceeds were spent appropriately?
I don't know if they were, I think because they were doing, this one was actually a forensic audit. So I don't know if that's what's
Should
different
be
about
the-
it.
Should be the same. I mean, that's why you pay your auditors to do the single audit.
That's a good point, because if it wasn't flagged in the original audit, it would give us some recourse if this were to go south. And I get your point, right? There's no indication right now that it may, but if.
I would just circle back and ask, who's the audit firm? Shank?
It is a Shank.
I would circle back to the partner on the audit and ask them.
Did they look at
what-
this fund?
Well, they
And
certainly
how-
should have,
how-
that's what they
right.
got paid for. So the question would be, what level of detail did they get into to satisfy that all the monies went the appropriate way? Because they'll often give you a ding if the monies are spent in an appropriate fashion and look for a change in procedures. So I would circle back through finance to Schenck.
It seems to me that the letter that we got was kind of like a happy little letter that everything was spent appropriately. So I'm really surprised to hear you say this from reading the letter.
Well, I think that Mr. Delvo's point, at the end of the day, all the money went into the project.
Project.
And I think that, I mean, at times, there was accusations of money going out
Yes.
of the project
I
or to other
see.
contractors
That's
or to other
really what-
individuals.
I see.
And the auditor was very clear that all of that money went in.
And that it was
through the
commingled, I
project.
mean, he said that, but that was used to pay suppliers and subcontractors for goods and services provided to the renovation development of Hotel Northland. So now what we have to make sure of is that a certain portion, the HUD money went to HUD eligible appropriate.
Correct. So the 850
Because it was
discrepancy,
commingled.
correct.
We have to figure out, we probably did.
Yes.
but-
No, and that's what we have a list of other expenditures on which it was spent that cover that 850, that we feel, look, as a city, which kind of,
Okay.
the regulating
Yep.
authority, yep, those are HUD eligible
Those are HUD.
expenditures. We just want to also get some confirmation from HUD, like, okay, we think they're HUD eligible expenditures, so we're on the same page.
But were they set, just one more question, Kitty. Were
That's
they
okay.
set out right at the beginning, like before the project started? This is where the HUD money exactly will go?
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
and that's
so there were
not
some-
exactly where it went.
There were some buckets, yes, that basically said,
Okay.
roughly, we're going to spend X amount and pull it up, X amount
Yeah,
on
I just
on these particular
wondered.
things.
Okay.
And that's what
But
they're
we're
trying to
going-
fill the buckets.
Okay, because those particular things were done,
Correct.
probably.
Correct.
Okay, all right, sorry, Kitty.
So of the $800,000
Thank
that
you,
you
Jim.
said in discrepancies, so an expense came in, does the city then transfer the money out to whoever made it? I mean,
Nope.
did we lose any of this money,
Nope.
or is it just all accounting?
It was all accounting with the previous developer.
Okay.
And so that, all of our money went in to that account. It got dispersed to entities. Really, all four HUD eligible expenditures, but the HUD eligible expenditures for which we were provided receipts did not match
Not
up.
matched.
There were some things that money wasn't spent on,
Okay.
and that's where the discrepancies.
But other money might
Okay.
have been spent on it.
It
But we
was.
didn't
It
lose
was,
any
for
money.
sure, spent on it.
Yes.
So it evened out in the end, but it wasn't tracked appropriately.
Correct. Correct.
It's good practice for you, for your 4 o'clock meeting.
4:30. That's my meeting too, isn't it? No, finance is 4:30,
Oh,
according to this.
okay.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know.
They change
Do you
them
have
all the
anything
time.
Sir?
Anything else? Add on it?
I got a couple quick, the Foxconn, anything new there at all?
We are meeting with them on Friday to talk about just build out timelines and
Okay.
plans.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask this question only because somebody asked me, the Friar Building at St. Mary's Church, what's the latest?
They are still working on their not due diligence, construction schedule, putting some pieces together about how they're going to move forward with that. I mean, have the tax credits, so they're just trying to line up. Basically, they're the contractors that hopefully they'd like to get started this year on it.
Okay. Any other questions?
In October? Okay.
That's what Kevin said.
Say it again?
Design in October?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay, great.
Which needs approval from us, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, The motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you. Excellent job. This is the progress.
Yeah. And I like the one.